Meowdy howdy. Alright, so now we are going to start our Áine doll. Now, I'm not going to be using this yarn specifically, not this color. I just wanted to show you the brand that I use so that if you're new to crocheting, you can kind of get an idea of what you need to look for. So this is like chunky yarn. It's jumbo, and you can see here generally you'll use an 11.5 millimeters. Sorry that everything's so blurry, but I promise you that says 11.5. A lot of people say to use a hook that is slightly smaller than the recommended size. That way you get a tighter knit, so it's not so loose and more falling apart. This is an 8 millimeter hook. This is the one that I'm going to be using to make the body. This is the actual yarn that I will be using for the body. And then this, we're not going to do it in this video, but this is the yarn that I will be using for the hair. So just like I showed you in a previous video, we're going to use this with our 5 millimeter hook to put the hair in the body. Well, in the head, whatever. And then we're also going to use bobby pins. Well, we're just going to use one bobby pin. This is going to be for saving our space, basically, saving our progress. So usually you'll use a stitch marker, but you can use a bobby pin. Like, you can use literally anything. Bobby pin, safety pin, as long as it stays in place and you remember where you're at. It's like a safe state. Let's see. And then I also have my safety eyes. These are the eyes that I'm going to be using to make a face on the Poppet. And then I'm going to fill the Poppet, the head and the body, with Polyfill Crafter's Choice stuffing. Alright, so let's get down into the meat and potatoes of it. So we're going to not lose our mind trying to find the start of the yarn. Now this is basically like Chanel yarn, so as you can see, like it sheds very easily. So I would not say this is like this is not really a beginner friendly yarn. Granted, I'm more of like novice to intermediate. I've only been doing this for like maybe 5 months, so I only half know what I'm talking about, and that's why my poppets don't look perfect, and yours don't have to look perfect either. Alright, so what we're going to do, take our yarn, going to wrap it around our index finger like so. We're going to hold it in place with our thumb, and we're going to wrap it around once more so it looks like this. So what we're going to do with this, while we're still holding it with our thumb, the loop that is closest to our knuckle, we're going to pull over this yarn that was sitting here. And we're going to do the same thing with this loop. Just pull it over the fingertip as best you can. Doesn't have to be like one fell swoop. And then you have a loop. So this is where we're going to start. So we're going to take our 8 millimeter hook and stick it through the loop. I like to hold it with my thumb and my ring finger, because what we're going to do, we're also holding this top part with our index and middle finger. We're going to hook into this long piece of yarn that's still connected to the rest of the bundle. We're going to pull it through this loop, and then we're going to do that one more time. This is called chaining, or making a chain. So I've chained 2. Doing those 2 loops, pulling the yarn through the 2 loops, makes a chain. Now down here we have, it's hard to see, but we have another little loop in there. So we're going to stick our hook through there. I'm going to still try to hold on to this part as best we can. We're going to take the hook, wrap the yarn around it, pull the hook through, just that first loop. So now we have two. It's hard to see because my camera sucks, but we have two loops here now. So what we're going to do is take another bit of yarn and pull that through both of the loops. So we're left with just the one loop on the hook now. So we're going to keep doing that a couple times. So in this bottom loop, and then I've done that twice now. I'm going to do this about 6 times. 3, 4, 5. And I realize my hands are in the way, so I'm going to try to do it to the side a little bit more for number 6. 6. Okay. So I'm sorry if that wasn't very performative. But we're going to have what looks like this. So this is what we're calling our magic circle. Some call it a magic ring. We're going to take this little tail. We're going to pull it in a little bit. That's going to close part of the ring. Now since this is going to be the head, we want it to be a little bit bigger than this, of course. So we still got some give where the original hole was. So we're going to stick the hook in through there, pull the yarn through, and then just like we were doing before, yarn over and then pull that through the loop, and do it one more time because there's still a little bit more give, and just ignore that tail. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put our yarn hook, we're going to put our hook through one of these loops here. See, this is where we were putting it before. Now we're going to start over here, like this loop right here. So we're going to stick the hook through that, and then pull a bit of yarn through that. We're going to pull this yarn through this loop as well, but we're not going to take another piece of this yarn and pull it through. And then we're going to do like that. Okay? So now we're going to chain 2. So 1, 2. And then here comes that bobby pin I mentioned earlier. So we're going to stick that where we're going to remember to stop, basically. So we're just going to stick that in there. So this is where this round starts. Sorry about my black shirt, it's kind of hard to see. So this is where the round starts. So we're going to crochet around the circle until we get to the bobby pin. And the way we're going to do that is kind of like how we did right here to close this part of the circle. So we're going to go in through here, going through. So basically the easiest way to do it is to count. Probably should have started with that, but yeah, you're going to count. So this is 1. You'll see it's like, put your finger in there. There's a loop there. You can tell there's a loop. So kind of hard to see, but you want to put it in through. It's gonna feel like 2 loops. So see, like that. So you got 1 loop right here. You're gonna do it through both little loops. It's good that we're using multicolor yarn for this. That way you can kind of get an idea of where everything's supposed to go. So now we have these loops here. We're going to take our yarn, put it, and then pull it through the loops that we had here. And then we're going to take the yarn and pull it through these 2 loops. And you'll see me tugging on this every so often to keep it tight, so that it doesn't like fall apart. If the yarn's too loose, it's going to fall apart. So we're going to do that again with the next set of loops. And then we're just going to keep going around. Okay. Sometimes it gets a little caught. I'm gonna put this down here. It's getting caught. Okay. So we got one more. All right, now we are back at the bobby pin. So we're going to pull that out, and we know that this loop is our next loop that we're going to put in. So we're going to stick it in like so, yarn over, pull it through. We're not going to yarn over this. We're not going to put another yarn in between. We're just going to pull that through and then chain 2. It's okay if your hook comes out of your loop. So 1 and 2. And we're going to take our bobby pin again, and we're going to just stick it through. Okay. And then we're just going to do like we did before, and just make another round. And yeah, when you first start doing this, obviously you're not going to be as fast as me. When I first started, I literally had to do it like this, like just manually pulling it over, because I wouldn't say I wasn't confident. It's just I didn't know what I was doing yet. Once you start doing it more, you'll understand how it's supposed to feel. Granted, some people say that my technique is not really that outstanding either, but that's why I say I'm not a professional. I'm like a novice going into intermediate, especially when it comes to filming, because I can't keep this thing on camera, and I'm sorry about that. Alright, so taking out the bobby pin and then pulling it through one more, and then chain 2. Let's see. So here's where we're at so far. So we got this little half ball. And then let's do one more round. And then we'll start closing it up for the head. Okay. So doing like so. The best thing about crocheting, I feel like it is pretty forgiving. So there's this technique called frogging, where if you mess up, like let's say I missed a stitch or whatever, you can just pull through and it unravels just like that. That's called frogging. Some yarn, like this one for example, Chanel yarn, the ones that shed, they can be kind of annoying when you're frogging them, but you just have to be like delicate with them. I would recommend not using like a Chanel yarn or any other yarn that sheds very much. I do feel like using a thick yarn, like using anything 8mm or above, would probably be easiest when you're just starting out, like learning how to maneuver everything. I started with a 5mm yarn, and that was very difficult. And then once I started doing the 8mm and above, I have such a hard time making stuff like this, like just the circle with small yarn. Okay, so we are going to take out the bobby pin. We're halfway done with the head. So I'm going to take out the hook for a second. We still got this little loop here, so don't fret. Pull it through just a little so we don't lose it. And what we're going to do is we're going to just turn it inside out and get off any extra fluff. Chanel yarn or any other shed yarn, you're gonna be making a mess. Just a heads up. So we have the half of the head, and so now we're gonna take our safety eyes. You can get like a pack of 400 or 700 of these for like $10 on Amazon. And these are the ones that I'm going to be using for Our Lady Áine here. So, 2. And then these are the little washers that you put on the back of the eyes. That could have been bad. So I'm not going to push it through right now, but this is basically what it's going to look like. I say I'm not going to push it through because once these connect, they are very difficult to get apart. Alright, so now I'm not very good at measuring these. A lot of the times my eyes end up lopsided. But what we're going to do, at least what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick a spot that I feel like is good for an eye. So I'm going to stick it right here. So a lot of people say to count. So like 1, 2, 3, put the other eye there. It's probably a good idea. I'll probably do that this time around. But just to show you what I'm doing. So we got our eye there. And we got the little nubby there for the back of the eye. So I'm going to try to hold this still. We don't want the eye moving around too much. And then I'm just going to place the washer over it, and I'm going to use a little bit of elbow grease. Some of them are harder to stick on than that. So, alright, and then just kind of use it. Alright, so we have an eye. We have one eye. Now, pretty much just going to do the same thing with the other one. Let's see. So, just like we were saying before, 1, 2. This is probably a good spot. I might be wrong. Let's do right here. Like I said, I'm not a professional at this. Take what I'm doing with a grain of salt. My word is not law. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at that. So I can already tell that this is lopsided. So I'm going to take the eye out, and this is why we position them before we immediately put the washers on. Okay, so, and a lot of the times I like to snip away the fluff around the eye, just so it doesn't get lost. Okay, that looks better. Yeah, it looks much better. All right, so once again, taking our other washer without dropping everything on the table, and then just do the thing. See, sometimes it's tricky. There you go. Alright. So now we have both of our eyes. And just be careful with them because they can pop out if you maneuver with them too much. And again, these are, especially once you get the head done, these are really hard to edit. Especially if you're a novice, like me. Have I said I'm a novice? Alright, so now what we're going to do, we're going to take our filling. We're going to take our stuffing. Obviously, we're most likely not going to use this much for just the head. But it's honestly how much I often end up grabbing. So we're just going to put a little bit at a time because the head is so small. So we're just going to shove it in like that. And I like to take a look to see how it's shaping. Okay. Might put a little bit more in there, but we're going to start closing this. This will be the last part of the video. After this, I'll start working on the body. But we're going to cut the video to a close for the head in a couple minutes because we've done this for 20 minutes now. All right, so we're going to start. We're going to decrease it. Now, this is not as far as I'm aware, this is not a traditional decrease because I'm not a professional. I just go with the flow. So I'm going to stick my yarn hook through this loop here. Just realized it's still in the way, sorry. So in this loop here, we're going to yarn over. I'm going to pull that through, and then we're just going to pull it through this loop. We're not going to yarn over again. And then we're just going to go around, slowly decreasing as we go. And as you see, I'm still tightening it. And then as we get closer to closing the head, sorry, I just realized I was holding it way above the camera. As we get closer to closing the head, we are going to most likely we're going to put in a little bit more stuffing because there's a lot of negative space there, as some artistes would call it. So, and then sometimes you got to dig around into that loop. So, but yeah, try not to overfill these parts when you're just closing it, because otherwise it'll just be a big pain trying to close it, because you have all this fluff like coming out like that, and it's hard to like yarn around it. So I'm just going to take a little bit more. There's no right or wrong amount of stuffing. Just however much you feel. I personally like to like really fluff them up, because they're stuffies. I mean, this is specifically a Poppet, but it's still a stuffy. Alright, so I think that is stuffed enough. So we're just going to finish up. And then just go through like that, not yarning over once we have it pulled through this loop. Sometimes it gets caught, and that's when frogging helps. So, and I'm just going to go in like through this way since we're almost done closing it. Okay. Alright, so now we have the bottom of our head. We're just about done with this. So what we're going to do to close this part of the project, we're going to yarn over, just pull it through, little give, take out the hook, gonna take out scissors, yes, you're going to need scissors, and then just cut that off, take out the working yarn, and you got this little tail here. Just pull that through, just pull that tight to close the head. And then so now we got this little tail here. You can do whatever you want with it, but I'm going to cut mine. Because ultimately, this is going to be connected to a body. So most of this, you're not going to see. But, and then just make it nice and pretty. And then you can also just like kind of shove it in here for the time being. So, alright, so that is our head for our Poppet. This part took longer than I expected, at least for the video. So I'm going to stop it here, and I will be back with the body. We may or may not do the arms and legs in the same one, depending on how much time it takes. I may show you the body and then just an arm, because they're all going to be made the same way. But yeah, alright, so see you in the next one.